Anywho, hey guys, I'm the Philosopher. Welcome back to the Console Explosion podcast live. It's been a while since we've done one. I've been busy. This guy down there, Jared's been busy, but we're trying to get some of the members.
Are you implying that I haven't been busy?
Antonio's been playing Overwatch every day. You know, the normal thing. He's been dead to the world.
Fuck Overwatch.
Oh God, geez, what happened there? We might have to catch up with that. We might have a few more people that are going to spill in later on. We've got a lot of stuff we want to talk about. We'll try to get to as much of it as possible. A lot of fighting game coverage today. I think there's a lot of relevant information going on. Injustice 2 just dropped. Street Fighter just had a big patch. Marvel vs. Capcom information is dropping left and right now, getting leaked, I should say. Tekken 7 just came out yesterday. So there's a lot of fighting game stuff going on. Figured we talk about that. There might be a few other things that we hit upon along the way because it's been so long since we've had one of these. So that said, we were talking about, there's a video that Antonio brought up that I actually saw as well. I don't know. I'll put a link to it down below, but it's a video by Core A Gaming talking about how the skill gap required, the level of skill required to learning a fighting game has been lowered. And I kind of want to touch on it in a few specific areas. Like, if you're familiar with Third Strike, he uses this example how I think it's Evo Moment 37 or 27 where
35.
35? Thank you. Really famous time where Daigo Umehara did this really good parry, this good counter where the input is very, very strict. And he countered it and wound up winning the match with like no health whatsoever. So you had to be like frame perfect with the timing. And then he showed that same special that he parried, but on Street Fighter V instead, and showed how easy it was to do it and how he could actually do like a mariachi song or something to it. That's how easy it was. And it was a really good point how they're dumbing down certain aspects of fighting games to make it more accessible, but at the same time, they're kind of shortchanging the hard work that's required to put into it.
Yeah, I think more accurately there, Taven, it's the idea of competitive video games have been dumbing down their technical, mechanical requirements as time goes on. I think that's the problem, right? Not only fighting games. This happened as well with games like StarCraft, right? Before in StarCraft 1, there were only like 3 guys that you could never beat, right? Jaedong as Zerg, it was one of the gods because of his mechanical skill, and you couldn't win if you couldn't match his mechanical skill, right? It's just no matter how strategic you were, no matter how good you were in other areas, if you didn't have the mechanical skill, you were not gonna be able to beat these guys, right? And now in StarCraft 2, for instance, there a lot of that mechanical skill required, and easy stuff like moving troops around. Before, you could only grab up to 12 units and move them around every 12 and 12, right? And now you can grab your whole army in one thing, right? So in small things like that, you can easily see how a lot of the mechanical actions required to make the same end meet, in this case, just move troops from A to B, instead of, if you have like a 200 army supply, instead of having, 12 different inputs to move that around, you can do that in one now, right? So it's very easy to see how that's been lowered. So a lot of people now, you can see a lot of people on top moving around, not only one guy, right? Yes, you may have the same 20 people, but not like before, right? Before, it was just, you couldn't beat these guys just the way they were, as good as they are. And as time goes on, and this is the example that you were showing, like Street Fighter, people now a lot of more people can get into that top spot without having the same mechanical skill as you required before. Not only that, but it's actually hurting the older guys, right, that were accustomed to certain strict inputs required to do X or B, right? X or Y. So is that the way we all want to go as a competitive type of people here for that type of games, or are we okay with lowering this gear like that? It seems that it's going lower and lower, right? So at what point is lower enough, right? As well, that's another question.
Right, and it's such an interesting and hard to answer or hard to solve. Not really an issue, but a thing that's happening because of game developers. And it's interesting because I've been playing a lot of Injustice lately. And what's fascinating to me is that the level of execution is a lot easier, in my opinion. The way the combos are pre-programmed, you don't really have to the way you press the buttons is different. You have to think about it differently compared to Street Fighter. The timing is still pretty strict. It's not as strict as like Third Strike or even Street Fighter 4 was.
I guess, I mean, it's fun. I think this way is way more fun for newer people, I guess.
I totally agree. I think the easier the inputs is, the easier it is for new people coming in to enjoy it, because nobody likes playing against somebody that's just going to, boom, and kick the crap out of them, right? Because they can't do what needs to be done, in terms of combos and stuff. Big example is the first Injustice, right? How, it was a little difficult to be able to do some of the moves. They did a couple patches. All of a sudden, it was a little bit easier. The timing wasn't as needed. And then I found it was a big change in the online aspect when I used to play, when it first came out.
Yeah. So here's my thought on this that I think could be solved a lot better. And one, I don't think there's any right or wrong answer to how difficult a game should be made. I think with certain franchises like Street Fighter, I think it's kind of a bad move to quote unquote dumb down the game to a certain degree without. At this point, there's already a competitive scene, and they want. They're obviously supporting the competitive scene because they have things like the Capcom Pro Tour. So they're already invested into competitive gaming. It's not like Super Smash Brothers where it just happened because the game was so popular it became competitive. Sakurai never wanted that game to be competitive, but Capcom obviously wanted 5 to be competitive. Ed Boon obviously invests money into like the NetherRealm games. KI Cup invests money into their tournaments. So these games that I'm specifically talking about, where the developers are investing money into the competitive scene, I think they need to be taking into consideration the competitive players a lot more. Yeah. And asking them, how can we make this game more accessible to new people without dumbing down the game so that it's still enjoyable and still has a certain level of depth to where you appreciate it? Because a lot of people are good at Street Fighter 5, and I don't want to get too far into this topic, but a lot of them don't find it as fun. I mean, they're in it for the money, but because the level of depth isn't as, it's still hard for me. Like, I'm not that great at it, but for them, it's not as in depth, and a lot of people say it's boring to watch at this point when you have more high action games like the NetherRealm games or KI, stuff like that. So
yeah, and you see people like that actually playing older versions of Street Fighter.
Oh yeah,
just because of that, right?
Combo Breaker just happened. Also, for anyone who does know what Combo Breaker is, I will have an interview with the guy who ran that coming out probably in a few weeks or so. So look out for that. But Street Fighter 4, Ultra Street Fighter 4 was there, and there's a bunch of like footage on that game because it's still a relevant game. It's still a very in-depth game, and this guy is over here taunting me with his two-button light stick.
Did you finish Street Fighter just now?
Oh, I just beat Street Fighter. This is the new Street Fighter 5 Pro fight stick. That's right. You want to be the best of the best? You buy yourself this fight stick. All you got to do is just press 2 buttons. Believe me, you'll beat the game in less than 10 minutes. I just beat it during the podcast.
I hope your car alarm goes off.
I think you are right there, Taven. I think for established franchises that are invested in the competitive community, I think they should probably not dumb down anything, right? Or if they want to do it, they for instance have when they compete or online or wherever, just have 2 tiers, right? One tier that want to have the older skill-based controls, the way it is before, or just have the new one, right? And it's a different tier.
Yeah.
Now, well, let me ask a question here, because we're talking about dumbing it down, and Antonio and I, we're not a fighting game prowess as much as the Philosopher. Philosopher is a great fighting game champion. Let's put it that way. He heralds the world of Street Fighter. He heralds the world of fighters. Antonio and I, we've been playing a lot of Overwatch. That's what we've been doing. We've been playing competitive. What about the fact that they've been dumbing down Overwatch? Like, you know, they've been dumbing it down so much. That I am a Junkrat main, and before, my own bombs would hurt me. My own wheel would kill me. So I had to be careful and play defensively if I'm going to be offensive. Now they've changed it to where it doesn't hurt you. So now you have all these people playing Junkrat and just jumping in and doing whatever. There's no real skill involved to do it. And they're dumbing down more characters this way.
Risk reward, you're saying.
I think. Well, in this case, it's different in a sense that it's a team-based game. It's a huge roster with very different abilities or weapons and everything between them. And what the Overwatch team is trying to do is trying to make characters that are not very viable most of the time. Like Junkrat's actually not very viable most of the time. Try to make him so people use them more, or the character is more viable, right? So they do changes like that, or like the newer one, like Reaper, for instance, is a character that is really not very viable the way it is now, because he's not shooting on anything at this point the way it is. So what they're doing is in the PTR, they are changing it so that every shot he makes, he recovers 20% of whatever damage he does. So to make him a little bit more survivable, they are taking my Roadhog and actually dumbing it down to a point where he's not usable now anymore. So I think the changes for Overwatch, in the case of Junkrat, I can see how it's dumbing down the character. But I think it's more them trying to make everything viable and try to make everything more balanced in a way. But it's extremely hard to do, in a game like that. And with more characters coming in, it just makes it, much more difficult. But I want to know, what's the reasoning to make it easier to play a character? Like, shouldn't it be, well, this character is a 3-star or a 5-star character in difficulty. You really need to master him. Now they're just making, they're all 1-star characters now, where, you can use the new Street Fighter fight stick on Overwatch now and beat it with absolutely no competition. That's right. No, but Street Fighter 5. Yeah, but I really don't think that's really the case in terms of Junkrat. They are just trying to make it more viable. I don't think they're trying to make it more easier to play. Again, I mean, he, in a sense, the way he plays, he spams fucking explosives, right? Yeah, before you used to hurt yourself if you were not careful, and now you're not. So that's a little of a dumb down, I guess. But that's probably the only character that's like that, really. I mean, what other character are you saying that's being dumbed down in terms of people not being able to use them? I think what they're doing is trying to make, less viable characters more viable, and the more used characters, try to make them harder to do so that people use them less every time, right? So I don't know. At what point we can change that? I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's really hard to balance that game the way it is, but that's what they're trying to do.
And something not just in fighting games, but I think any competitive gaming could really benefit from this. But one of the things that I have an issue with a lot of fighting, it's not a huge issue, but something that I think would make it way more accessible for new people to play is a more robust way of teaching the game. Like, they teach you how to play the game, which is really good and useful. Like, Injustice has a decent tutorial. Street Fighter, they show you how to play the game, but they don't teach you the backbone of fighting games, the competitive side. When it comes to like frame data, like Injustice goes out of their way to actually show you some of the frame data, but they don't take the time to explain it to you. There's a lot of YouTubers and other people who are out there taking the time to create apps, like FAT or the Injustice app where you can look at frame data. But there's all these frame data is something that's in the game that you have to understand. You have to know how to understand in order to play the game competitively. You have to understand concepts like punishing, and understand those in at least execution-wise and the philosophy behind it. Fighting games specifically aren't doing a good enough job of really explaining that and teaching you how to capitalize on that, in my opinion. I think the only game that I know that like people say the tutorial is really good is Skullgirls. Mike Z created a very good tutorial. I think Guilty Gear might be another one. But for the most part, a lot of these games don't teach you about frame data, don't teach you properly about punishing, and like don't teach you how to learn the combos, don't teach you about execution. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of moving pieces when it comes to fighting games, and they don't help you break those down individually so that you can understand.
But not only fighting games. I think this is something that goes around, right? For competitive games.
And
I use that. Yeah, that happens as well with strategy games, right? StarCraft is one of those. I mean,
definitely.
They don't even tell you how to have a control group. It's, they will, there's a lot of things that they don't teach you during the game that in competitive, if you don't know, it's just you're dead, right? So yeah, I mean, do we really need to have that, or is it the user, I don't want to say fault, but their own accord to go in and find more about the game, try to get better that way, or is it the game's responsibility to do so? I don't know.
I mean, I don't think it's their responsibility, but if they want the game to be competitive and they want the competitive scene to grow, I think it's a wise idea for the developers to implement. Instead of dumbing down a game, I think it's better to teach people to appreciate the level of depth that a game can have. It's, in my opinion, I think it's a happy middle ground. Now, there's going to be people like Joe Monday who make books and help with all kinds of literature to teach you how to play a game. There's going to be the YouTubers that teach you how to play games, like Avoiding the Puddle, or tons of other people. But I think they could make even better content if they didn't have to waste time on things that should already be into the game, teaching you how to play it. Like you play any good like action adventure game, they have the tutorial in the game. They teach you individual parts of the game, and then they make you use it. Like, okay, here's a new skill. Here's some monsters that make you have to use that skill. They're like immune to everything else except for this one skill. Now you use it. Now you have to use it in tandem with all the other things that you've learned. They teach you movement individually. And these fighting games, they're getting better with tutorials, but I still think, while I'm not as hard as Jared is on Capcom, I do think it's important to criticize, have constructive criticism. Like, here's the things that you can do to make this better without dumbing it down, without making it seem less intelligent. I don't have the screen hold up, but I'm pretty sure I hear his keys up again. But maybe not. Oh, I see him.
I'm sorry about that.
Are you good? But yeah, so I think personally, I don't think dumbing down a game is necessary. Now, certain fighting games or games in general are very hard, but it doesn't. I don't think that necessarily making them always easier is the best way to go about it. I think certain times there are certain things that could be made a little bit easier, but when you have a franchise, I think you're almost spitting in the return buyer's face by like just doing drastic changes. But at the same time, it is important to mix it up. So I understand from their point of view, it is hard to change something or make something they think is better. But at the same time, they do have to establish that there's all these people who have a certain expectation as to what the game is. And while it is their prerogative to make the game however the hell they want at the end of the day, they do have to consider that there's a large fraction of people that play fighting games that are return people. And if they're trying to invest into competitive games, they probably don't want to spit in the faces of the people who are going to be playing that game competitively when they could go to an NRS game or a Killer Instinct game or a bunch of other fighting games that are growing right now. Tekken.
But we've learned one thing from this.
Yeah.
All right. Actually, two things. First thing, if anybody's watched any of our podcasts, you heard it here. I was right.
Oh my God.
And second, Capcom doesn't give a shit about its fans. They're going to spit in the face of them no matter what. Let's face it. It's what they do.
So I don't want to get too far off topic, but I do disagree. I think with competitive games, Capcom has helped again to revitalize the competitive scene. So maybe the game didn't do as well as they think, but I think from my point of view, it has really brought a big spark and a big spotlight to fighting games. You have things like E-League, which are being aired on TBS right now, which is a big deal for the FGC. So maybe the game itself isn't as good as people want it to be when it comes to like casual play, but I want to acknowledge that Street Fighter V has done a lot for the FGC, and I think a lot of people are grateful for it, even if they don't play Street Fighter themselves. So
and Street Fighter's done really well in peripheral sales. I mean, they've sold tons of things in peripherals. Like this new controller that you could buy for Street Fighter V. That's right, this pro controller. You could beat the game in generally minutes.
Anywho, so I'm going to get on to a few other topics that are at least out. We'll stay on the Capcom while we're here, because we talked about this a little bit beforehand.
Speaking of Capcom spitting in people's faces, is that what you want to talk about? Let's talk about the new Marvel.
Guess.
Huh? Marvel vs. Capcom. How many people here have actually played the game? Like the original Marvel vs. Capcom or Marvel vs. Capcom 2?
I've played.
Everyone's played them here.
Like the exactly.
Yes.
Arcade.
So for those of you who may not have been following, there's been a huge leak, and the source of the leak has been reliable in the past. So a lot of these leaks are probably going to be pretty accurate. I'm going to try to read off the names, and then Jared can probably go back behind and explain his side of why he's upset. But I'll just go down the line. There's a few other characters that are already announced. I'm not going to talk about those. You can probably do a little bit of research, or I might put a link down below. But these are all the characters that aren't in the trailer that have been announced. So on the Capcom side, you have Arthur from Ghosts and Goblins, Chris Redfield, Chun-Li, Dante, Devil May Cry, of course, Firebrand. He's from I think Ghosts and Goblins as well, or some other.
Ghosts and Goblins. He's the little devil. He's the devil.
Yeah, he's like a little flying red devil. He was also in Marvel vs. Capcom 3 Ultimate. Jeddah from Darkstalkers or Vampire Savior, depending on which one you play. Mega Man X, no surprise there. Monster Hunter, Morgan, also from Darkstalkers. Nemesis from Resident Evil. Ryu, Spencer from Bionic Commando. Bionic Commando, the grappling arm god. Strider Hiryu. On the Marvel side, you have Ant-Man, Captain America, Captain Marvel, Doctor Strange, awesome, Gamora, Hawkeye, Hulk, Iron Man, Nova, Rocket, and then Groot's been rumored to be in it, but he's probably going to be like a level 3 super for Rocket Raccoon is what I'm guessing. I think it actually showed that. Spider-Man, Thanos, Thor, and Ultron. And there's also been some DLC characters that have been announced, which is probably why Jared is so upset, and he can probably get into that a little bit.
Well, the biggest thing is, I've talked about this before in other podcasts, DLC is absolutely killing the market and is killing everything, because here's Capcom again releasing a game that isn't done. Yeah, heck, who knows? It probably doesn't have a story mode or a single player mode, and is probably not completed, but yet they announced a shit ton of DLC characters at $4.99 American, and it's like $7.99 or $9.99 Canadian. So you're spending another like $100 for characters that are DLC that are regular characters in either MVP or MVC3 or MVCU3, or in case every character was in NVC2. So why not just make a game that has all the characters in it and quit having us spend money on things we already have?
So you're saying that the DLC is going to be like 3 billion pesos?
Yeah. So
yeah,
$4.99.
Yeah, like 3 billion and a half pesos.
No,
yeah.
$4.99.
And you're extremely right there, Jared. That same thing with Activision and the whole Call of Duty shit, right? Where they're fucking giving you they're selling you the original DLC for Call of Duty 4. Which, how old is that? Like 10 years old now?
Yep.
So instead of giving you like a complete remaster package with all the DLC, they're fucking giving you first of all, you have to buy, you cannot buy it directly. You need to first buy Infinity Wars, and then that will give you the access to buying the freaking Call of Duty 4 remastered. And after that, you're going to have to spend I believe it was like $14, or $15, $14.99 per DLC, the original DLC. That not only that, but it was actually cheaper back then. It was $10 for those DLC. So what the fuck is going on with the industry, guys? That is really is just giving us. You know what's happening? They're opening their butt cheeks and they're shitting in our face. And some people just open their mouths and say, "Oh, God, give me more." Blah, 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 blah.
I can't disagree with what you're saying there, which is why I tend to not buy DLC. I don't think I purchased a DLC with like out of game money in a while. But something I do want to bring up that hasn't been confirmed yet. Like, yes, you can buy those characters with money, which I probably won't do because I usually don't. But you have to keep in mind, Street Fighter, you can buy all those characters with in-game money. It takes a while to grind it, but I haven't spent a single dollar on any of the characters that I bought. So that might be a thing that reoccurs in this game, especially since they're probably wanting this to be another competitive fighting game. So I'm going to reserve. I mean, they could very well just be like, no, you're going to buy every character for $5 each. But I'm going to wait and see because they've been kind of smart here and there. I mean, Capcom does do Activision-esque things.
They do. And fuck that shit.
They do kind of Activision things. The first Marvel vs. Capcom came out. All the DLC came out and then you had to play online on those servers. After they decided, well, we're going to re-release Marvel vs. Capcom 3 Ultimate Edition, but hey, none of those servers with all the characters you downloaded will go to this one, so you can't play with your friends until you buy our new one.
Not only that, Ian is so fucking handsome. I want his children.
No.
Since he's not saying shit, I just wanted to bring him on.
I have zero opinions about fighting games, so I'm like, okay, cool.
But do you have any opinions on people being shit in their faces?
Or
is it chat?
Geyser porn?
Is it chat on their faces? How do you say that? Shit in their faces or
demonetize this one, Jared?
Well, I think as long as people keep buying it, they're never going to learn their lesson.
I agree with that.
That's my fans.
So you're saying people are the problem instead of fucking.
Oh yeah. Like, obviously, if the company does it and people don't buy it, then they'll learn their lesson. They probably won't do it again.
So
but people rewarding negative behavior. Yeah.
All people hearing this, you heard it here first. Ian is saying that you like to have shit in your face. You open your mouth, you eat it really good, and that is your fault. You know, climate change is your fault. So,
Climate change. Love it.
So fuck you.
God. So let's talk about something a little bit happier then. One,
I'm pretty happy. I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, you must like Cleveland Steamers or something. I don't know. That's your thing. But okay, so one real quick, Wonder Woman was awesome. The reason
I haven't seen it. Don't say anything about it, please.
No spoilers. Don't worry. I'm just saying go see it. I'm not a big DC fan, so I want to preface that with I enjoyed the movie despite the fact that I'm not a huge DC fan. It was good. It was a well-made movie, in my opinion. That said, the reason I'm talking about that is because there's a new DC fighting game. If you haven't, if you've been living under a rock, Injustice 2, made by NetherRealm Studios. I have been playing that game since has it been last Friday? I don't know. I got it very recently, but I have been loving this game. Fantastic. I don't want to say this on record, but I've actually been enjoying it a lot more than Street Fighter. I don't want to compare the two because they're completely different games. It's just a very refreshing thing after playing Street Fighter for so long and grinding shit up.
Did you hear that? He said it. He said, "Fuck you all, Street Fighter 5 fans. Fuck y'all." He's now
Street Fighter.
We're saying fuck everyone today, huh?
Apparently.
Jeez.
Golly. But I'm just saying, I want to give this game props because it's a superhero fighting game, and obviously, it's not a Marvel fighting game made by Capcom. So, kudos to NetherRealm Studios. Very fantastic game. There's already people complaining about certain play styles, but whatever. People are going to complain no matter what. I think it's a very well-made game, and I'm excited to get better at it. All the characters, in my opinion, are pretty fun to play, which is awesome. It's still difficult in its own way, but it's still easier. Like I was saying before the show, it's just the inputs are a lot different, but it's something that's worth at least checking out, at least rent it. I think it's probably the best made fighting game in the last couple of years. To be honest, I think on release, it's very well made. It has a very great single player for people who want to play just by themselves. Has a great storyline. I know, right? It's crazy. A fighting game with a good single player. So it has a good storyline.
Fighting game? What the fuck is going on in this world?
You can customize your characters and stuff like that. So it's really refreshing. Tekken 7 also dropped yesterday. So we've got a bunch of fighting games coming out all over the place. I haven't picked up Tekken yet. It's probably going to be a while before I get that one, but people are already happy with it. Customization in that one is good. I don't know much about the storyline or the single player. I know it has a story to it. But
story
if you don't know
in a fighting game? What the fuck?
On release? What? That's crazy.
On just the fucking game? What the fuck's going on?
I know. It's crazy, guys. But I've said this before. A lot of people who play fighting games have already talked about this, but it's like we're in another golden age of fighting games because Street Fighter kind of kicked it all off. And then you had some Guilty Gear games. You had
Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat kicked it off.
Oh, yeah,
when Mortal Kombat, the original Mortal Kombat came back, and then it's on the PS3. That's what kicked everything off. When they're like, "Holy shit, look what we could do!" I think that's what it was. I mean, by then it was like what Street Fighter 4 Ultra Super Arcade Ass Ramming Edition.
Yeah, the shit in your face edition.
I'm talking more so about like the competitive scene, like fighting games in general, but also the competitive scene. Because Street Fighter 4 was like the last big fighting game. And then MK came out, and that kind of helped revitalize it. And then Street Fighter 5 helped boost everything, and now you have all these other games coming out. And I'm not comparing one game to the other. Like they're all fun, in-depth games in their own right. So I'm not trying to compare one or bash another, but it's just been great to see all these games. I probably won't be a huge Tekken guy personally, but it's just good to see all these games coming out. All these fighting games.
Street Fighter 2 all the way.
Street Fighter 2 came out on the Switch. Street Fighter 2. What is it called?
The HD edition shit.
It's something like that. It's interesting. Which,
yeah, the one that was
Fighter 2 HD Turbo Redux revamp.
That one is it was on the PS3 and Xbox 360 like at the beginning of that era.
This actually ties in good with a couple of topics that I wanted to talk about, which comes in with racism in fighting games. And there's two games to talk about here, and I'm kind of on the side of like there's a little bit too many social justice warriors, but I at least want to talk about it because I think there's some legitimacy to these things, but at the same time, people are, in my opinion, caring a little bit too much. The first one is the new Street Fighter game that came out, where the remake, where it has two characters, Evil Ryu and Violent Ken. Evil Knievel and Violent Ken. So no, Evil Ryu and Violent Ken. But the thing that's worth talking about is the fact that it brought up this conversation about how they use darker shades to show that a character is evil. And they use other examples like the dude from Mulan, the evil guy from Mulan. They use Scar from Simba. They use a few other characters as well that I just can't think off the top of my head. Oh, Ansem from Kingdom Hearts. So it's like this the fact that a lot of Japanese... Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in on you. I'll tell you what it's from, and I think Ian probably could enlighten us more on the fact, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Western movies. When they did Westerns, bad guys always wore black, good guys always wore white, and the same with the samurai movies. The good guys wore white, bad guys were ninjas, and they wore black. So there's always been something within, like, I know for a fact for Hollywood has always been due to the fact of black and white.
Yeah.
And I mean, come on.
You're right there. But also in general, in the Asian culture, that they all like every anime you say, when they are being possessed by an evil spirit, whatever, they're always shaded darker. That's all it is. It's nothing to do with people having black skin and people saying, people with black skin are evil. I don't. That's ridiculous. There's nothing to do with that.
I think
Donald Trump. So settle down.
Well, yeah, Donald Trump is my president now. So fuck you. How about that?
I definitely think a lot of people. There might be some truth to that, but I think there's people building a defense against it without fully understanding the origins of some of these things.
I think ultimately, are they just overlooking the fact that video games and movies are a visual medium, and it's really easy to show stuff via imagery? So they're reading into a subtext that just isn't there.
Right. And the other thing that's worth considering, though, is that how it psychologically affects the youth. That's something that actually is kind of a good conversation to have, not just us, but people in general, because, you know, you're a kid and you grow up and you see these things. They aren't smart enough to figure that out on their own. You know, they see Scar, they see all these characters, they're shaded darker.
I'm gonna point something out here. So I was at Walmart not too long ago, and I saw a kid running around in a Black Panther outfit. Like, awesome. You know, and here's the thing, the kid was white. And the kid had no association with the character being of a darker complexion at all. Mm-hmm. And to me, I think that construct is there when people put it there. Yes. Otherwise, there's no issue with it whatsoever. And it's just, they're making an issue out of something that honestly isn't there.
That's
the
actually...
intention wasn't to make it racist, wasn't to make it associated with people of darker skin being more evil or coming from a different part of the world. It's just, it's a construct that they in their minds are putting on it. That's just...
And I totally agree with that, because when you talk, like, we go to a lot of conventions, we do a lot of anime conventions, we go to video game conventions, and we talk to a lot of cosplayers. And the biggest thing, exactly what you said, is you have people who are cosplaying out of color, out of gender, and people are in an uproar about it. So you have white people playing black characters being white, Asians playing blah, 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 and so on and so on and so on. They talk about whitewashing and everything. And, you know, and then gender, you have the gender bending and the gender swapping, and you have people getting upset about that. I think it's only once it's in their brain of that it's affected, and most people see it as a normal thing, I assume.
Did you hear about the change.org petition to remove Far Cry 5?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like in the line, they're like, a game franchise that has appealed to misogynators and deviants. And I'm like, wait, so the people putting up the petition take issue with people interbreeding outside of their own race? So that right there is a really just scary thing they're putting out there.
Can you break it down a little bit about what's going on with this?
Oh, so okay. So the new Far Cry game takes place in the United States and looks at the more unfriendlier elements of what could happen inside the United States, as opposed to, like, let's say, a third world country where Far Cry has taken place before. A lot of these people are taking issue with it because it's shining a light on views of Americans that are more rural, that might carry that kind of creepy cultish nature to them. I'm not saying they exist or they're out there, but cults are real things. White supremacy is a real thing. And the game is kind of illuminating that. And they're taking issue with that because it somehow puts America in a negative light, but their own petition in itself puts them in a negative light because they are actually being racist.
And they want the antagonist to be which race again?
I have no idea, but they took issue with the fact that the franchise is pushing these ideas that don't apply to white people. It's so out there.
Yeah. Some of the articles that I've read also said that they wanted the antagonist to be like Middle Eastern or something. I don't know if that's actually the case. Like, I have a hard time believing things sometimes because of how people complain about. I just find it so far out to like left field that I can't believe that people are actually like
a far cry from reality.
I would say that actually. I wouldn't be.
It's the patriarchal society, guys.
But yeah, we have a lot of this stuff going on, and it's just really fascinating. And it's fascinating because it's happening in gaming. Like, you know, I outside of this podcast, I do talk about politics a lot and all that other stuff, but I try to separate it. But it's been bleeding into it. Like the last example I have, which is something that I don't want to dismiss because I like hearing other people's side of the argument. But from what I know right now, I think it's kind of silly. And that's the thing with ARMS. It's a Switch fighting game. It's kind of like Wii boxing with springy arms is the best way I can explain it in a short amount of time. Or Dalsim Simulator 2017. So basically there's a character and she's like, I think she's from African origin, I believe. Like not African American, but I think she's from Africa. At least that's how they portray her. I could be wrong. But the thing is that she fights with her hair. And people are complaining that she's like the only character with weaponized hair. And I think that is kind of a dumb argument. Like something that I could complain about in the trailer, like they did like a character release trailer. Something I could complain about is that she was the very last character to be shown. Like, oh, why is the black character the last character? I could complain about that, but I don't give a damn. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Also, there's been plenty of other characters that have weaponized hair that were either like Asian or like white, I suppose, like Sindel from Mortal Kombat. Jared talked about the character from Skullgirls. I can't think of her name right now. There's been other characters that have weaponized hair. There's been like NPCs.
Yeah, the Genie video game. What's the name?
Oh yeah, Shantae had weaponized hair.
Yeah.
She's Iranian.
And that's fucking awesome game. What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah.
Right. So I think people are getting up in arms. I did it again.
Oh.
About this kind of... Yes, I know. Oh god, someone says that with my hair back and forth. But yeah, I mean, people are really like this whole, like, I don't want to say the SJW or the social justice warrior thing, but I think
is it patriarchy, man? I don't know what you're talking about.
It's a what?
Is it patriarchy or what's that? How's that pronounced? It's fucking man. That's what I'm saying. That's the problem.
Oh, the patriarchy?
Yes.
Patriarchy. There we go.
Patriarchy. Yeah. That's what it is.
Totally it. Yeah, totally it.
Patriarchy is fucking making people go to developers and say, "Hey, developers, we are men, so use this girl to use her hair."
You know, I just realized I'm actually the only white guy in this podcast.
Oh my god.
Yes. What?
Oh, does that mean we're racist because you were the last one to show up?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was the last one to reveal myself. So you guys are totally racist.
Get the fuck out of here, whitey.
Oh god. I'm just talking to you guys. But yeah.
So with that being like, I could see if it was like, I don't know, if it was majorly racist, if it's like the hair picked up knives and like was screaming in like ghetto talk.
Like if her hair was holding guns like this and she was shooing, like
yeah,
okay,
exactly, right?
That's a little racist, but
yeah, I could see that, or you know. Again,
like, I'm black and I use my hair. Look at me.
Yeah,
but I just think I think the world is a hell of a lot different than it was when we were growing up, and this whole social justice warrior thing is, I don't know, is to me is getting to the point of ridiculousness. Being politically correct in certain things is getting to the point of ridiculousness.
Yeah, it's almost like reverse racism, or in like
exactly. You know, it's like I'm to the point of I'm done with it. I'd hate to see what it's going to be like in 10 years.
And here's the thing: like, I'm very sympathetic to people who you know, anyone who has any kind of mindset, as long as they're willing to talk about it. But what we have here is the exact same thing, just on the opposite side of the spectrum, where people are bitching about the other side of the story, but not willing to like. They're throwing out their information. They're shaming, they're insulting without opening up for conversation. It's not like, hey, you know, this is how I feel about it, and I want to talk to people who feel differently. It's, hey, this is how I feel. I'm offended, and you guys are fucking dickheads, and you shouldn't be doing this. I need you to change it. I'm going to put a petition up, and I'm going to get everybody to sign it. Like, where the hell is the conversation? It's just people bashing it instead of actually having the conversation. Like, that's what I want. I would love to have someone who feels this way talk to them and be like, why is it that you feel this way? Like, not like even trying to be condescending, but actually understanding and seeing why they feel that way and why they can't actually just
plus it's a fucking video game. What would that make you you know, what is that even a thing, right? I mean, why is that really making everyone racist because it's a video game? It's like the same argument, people saying that video games are fucking misogynistic. You know, because we don't have, I don't know, because we are rescuing a princess. Are you stupid? Or what?
Yeah, a lot of it has to do, like, and this is all kinds of media. The issue that I see, you know, with my limited level of thinking, is that people are blaming forms of media for the bad mentalities that people might have, you know, racism, sexism, all these kind of things. But, you know, parents and family members and friends aren't actually having these conversations about it. You know, they're letting video games and TV babysit their children. You know, they're letting them be their idols, their role models, and all these things. But they're not having the conversation. Like, I didn't have these conversations about racism. My parents, at a younger age, were kind of racist. You know, a lot of people kind of were, and I had to grow out of not grow out of racism, but I had to find my own level, my own free thinking, and realize that, racism doesn't fix anything. It actually makes things worse. So logically, why would I even be racist? I just met someone who's white and he's really cool. Why would I be racist? That's dumb. Like, I had to kind of evolve past that. Whereas people in these families, sometimes they don't evolve past that. And it's not because of the video game or because of this movie or because of whatever activity. It's because the people around them are not creating an environment where they can be like productive what they're thinking, where they're not going to be racist, or they're not going to be misogynist. They're not going to be these crazy people who want to just blow up every damn body and build walls. But hey, that's just me.
I agree.
I agree as well.
Do you agree?
I agree as well.
But one thing I wanted to kind of go a little off topic about here.
Yeah.
Are we all done about talking about sexist misogyny and pooping in people's mouths?
I
Never.
think so.
Never. No.
Speaking,
we'll love a good shit in the face. Yeah.
Speaking of repetitiveness and coughing out the same thing over and over and over again, the new Star Wars or the new Star Trek trailer landed. What do you have to say?
Oh
Ian?
God.
Uh-oh.
Is this newer than the Discovery reveal trailer?
The one I posted last week.
Oh, I'm so worried, man. Like, for me, I hate the JJ verse so much that the fact that this show doesn't really establish where it is in the timeline very effectively, it's worrisome there. And then the crap where, they're kind of mixing the trailer up to where you're not sure if that race is Klingons or not, which really worries me about how they look, because that completely throws Star Trek canon out the window and just totally fucks with stuff. So that's worrisome. Here's the thing, so you're in Canada, so you're going to get it on Netflix, which is going to be awesome for you. But in the United States, you got to use CBS fucking Direct or whatever that crap is called. So for the United States, it's behind a paywall. So the show right away is going to have atrocious numbers, despite the fact it's already profitable, because Netflix put a lot of money out there to get the rights to it internationally, pretty much. But it's gonna bomb really hard in the United States, and I just don't feel like the show is in the hands of the right people at the moment. And I'm actually almost more excited for Seth MacFarlane's show, The Orville.
Oh man,
than I am for Discovery, because that actually is going to have Star Trek alumni on the show, where Discovery is just kind of spitting in the face of a lot of fans. At least that's how I feel right now. I could be wrong, and I really, really want to be wrong, but I'm not going into this with very high hopes.
Don't they have Wesley Crusher in that one?
Wesley Orville?
Yeah.
No, they might. He's probably going to be on it, because apparently
not the actor. I can't think of his name right now, but I mean, not the actor.
Will Wheaton?
Yeah, Will Wheaton.
Maybe. I mean, there's potential for that. I know right now they have Cassidy Yates, who played, the character, I can't remember the actress's name, but she played Cassidy Yates in DS9. She's going to be on the show. They got a bunch of other regulars that are going to pop up once in a while. And there's even talk of Patrick Stewart coming on, but they're probably not going to bring him on until later because he's just such a presence.
Yeah.
But
that's the whole thing, is that we're looking at this two spectrums of shows. One of them is, of course, the Star Trek lore and all that, and the fact that you have Star Trek Next Generation, DS9, Voyager, Enterprise, and the movies. And if you want to listen to a lot of nerdy Star Wars or Star Trek talk, tune into the Historic Nerd streams, and all he does is talk about this nonstop. It's very. If you have insomnia, this is the channel for you. It is the stream for you, because it will put you to sleep. Unless you're a fan of it, then you'll be in heaven.
Also, he has a very smooth, velvety voice, so his voice can just put you to sleep just by talking about it.
Yeah, because all I do on my streams is drink till late at night and talk about stuff.
But then you have the other aspect, which is Seth MacFarlane's jokingness type satire archetype. Which one's going to do good? And the fact that we're just talking about sexism and racism, and people are up in arms about who the captain of the Star Trek ship is.
Let's not forget that Seth MacFarlane can make shit as well. Just look at the fucking Western that he did. That movie
was great.
No, it was
A
fucking
Million Ways to Die in the
stupid.
West. That was a funny movie.
It was a shit movie.
It was the best. I would even say that it wasn't as
I
good
probably laughed
as
once,
Ghostbusters
I laughed.
2016.
like once when it ended because I was so happy.
Wow.
Well, I thought Ted was good. Oh, that was a good movie.
Oh, Ted was fucking funny. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. I think
It has Mark Wahlberg in it.
well, yeah, the problem with like when he was making A Million Ways to Die in the West, Seth MacFarlane spread himself way too thin, and he just didn't have the time he needed to like fully hammer that film out. Like I think there was potential there, but like he just didn't take the time he needed to do it.
No, it was So just because what I'm trying to say is just because it's him, it's not a guarantee in my view.
Well, I think honestly, like based on what I saw in the trailer, I think it has a lot of potential to be pretty funny. And I'm not. Then again, I'm also not going in with a high expectation of it. So
That's the best way to do it.
I got that going. Like, so yeah, the Star Trek show. What I found was really intriguing was like when they revealed that the captain of the new ship was going to be, because they revealed the Shinzon, or I can't remember what the ship's called, but the Chinese actress was the captain of that ship, and then the new African American actress is going to be the captain of the other ship. And the people were apparently just pissed about that. And I'm like, what? How is this still an issue? We had a black captain on DS9. We had a woman captain on Voyager. Why are people still upset about this? I don't care. I just want the show to be good. I honestly, I haven't even really watched The Walking Dead with her in it, so I don't know how good of an actress she is. But
wait, who, Michonne?
It's not Michonne. That's not the actress.
What's his name? Sister.
It's the younger actress on there.
The black guy. Tyrese's sister.
Yeah, she's on the Discovery show. I don't know. Oh my God, Barca, stop it.
Oh my
God.
God.
She's mad about Discovery too, apparently.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah.
I forget her name, but yeah.
Have you guys?
I think she did a great job in The Walking Dead. So for her to go into this, I think it's gonna be.
Oh, Sasha.
Gonna be good.
I think my girlfriend.
Yeah, Sasha.
Yeah, so there's a lot of potential there. I'm not like that. Honestly, was the last thing on my mind when they were talking about it. So I really, for that to be an issue with people, it really surprises me what the year is sometimes. But yeah, so that really isn't a worry for me. It's to me, it's like how good of a job the producers are going to do and keep the show sci-fi-ish and not go too far into that lens flare bullshit that JJ did.
Wow.
The one thing that I'm really happy about is the fact that Doug Jones is going to be a main character in it.
Ooh.
And for the people who don't know, Doug Jones was in one of the movies that we reviewed and talked to the people about. Anyone remember the name of the movie?
Love in the Time of Monsters.
Monsters. There you go. Yep.
Yeah, we were there first.
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't know about first, but we were there.
Shut up. You were there first.
Oh, you know who wasn't there? Ian for
Oh
Ralph.
yeah. For what's
Ralph
his
Bakshi.
name? Rob. Yeah, exactly. Bashki. That was the better
I
one.
could hate you guys.
I think that's a great note to end this on, so that
Yes.
we can let Ian just simmer with that. Sadly, I'm sorry. We're gonna go down the line here, and you're gonna find out where you can find these fine gentlemen and what they do. Starting with Antonio.
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube, Local Retro Reviews. I haven't done anything in the past 6 months.
I blame Overwatch.
Fix that, man.
I completely blame Overwatch.
He's an
I
Overwatch.
thought you were uninstalling that. Why did that come back?
He
Saw you on
installed
there.
it for a day and then started playing again.
You guys can shut up now. Thank you.
Need to come down there and have an Overwatch intervention with you.
Yeah.
You could. Yeah, if you come down here, I'll stop playing for that for sure.
All right, let's do that.
Road trip.
And I'll be playing you. Okay.
All right. So, Ian, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on my YouTube channel, YouTube/historic-nerd, or you can go to my website, www.historicnerd.com, or if you want to bug me directly, come to Twitter and talk to historical nerd on Twitter. And I'll get
At Barca.
yeah, that's where you can find me. Feel free.
And then, good old Jared. We all know he's the CEO of the Console Explosion. But if they want to find you directly, where do they go?
Pretty much check me out on Twitter at Console Explosion. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on every media. If you're watching this on VidMe, hello. Hopefully we'll have more podcast strictly loaded to you guys on VidMe more. So we'll have those more hopefully weekly. We're hoping. This is the first one back in a while. So again, we're just trying to get back into the stride of things. So bear with us, VidMe. But also you can check us out on Xplosion.com. And of course, anywhere you can buy Street Fighter 5 controllers, make sure you pick this one up. It is a pro controller. And yeah, you want to beat Street Fighter real quick? This is the one for you.
Anywho, I'm the Philosopher. You can find me on Facebook.com/The Philosopher.
Is that the Mad Catz model?
No, I had the Mad Catz model one, actually.
Oh, gotcha.
Mad Catz.
Rest in peace, Mad Catz.
Yeah, are they
Rest
out of
in peace.
business? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to talk to me directly, Twitter @The Philosopher, and then Facebook.com or YouTube.com/Philosopher, where I actually do a lot of fighting game stuff. I have a show on there called FGC Philosophy, kind of similar to this one, but talking more so about fighting games. I have a new one coming up this week. Very excited about it. More so pointing towards personal development and not defeating yourself before you actually play the damn game. So look out for that one. And thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.
Bye.